What I love about Michael Myers is that there's no reason for him being that way.
Purely and simply evil.
He has no personality. He is just the shape. There's nothing there. It's just kill.
The masterstroke is people being so seduced by the question of why is he evil?
Michael?
That's the scariest thing, is when you can't explain it.
Michael just wants fucking chaos. He's gonna fucking spill blood on your streets. He is a great white shark.
That's what's scary about it. You can't sit and have a conversation with Michael Myers. He's just gonna kill you.
So many things went right to make it the phenomenon it is, and one of the main ones is the mask itself.
It was something so different and unique. It is kind of a blank slate.
It looks human, but that's not human. And there's a coldness there, and there's no emotion.
That gives the audience the freedom to just run wild with their imagination.
Nick Castle in that mask, it was the perfect storm. I mean, they knew what they were doing, but they had no idea what it would become.
It's just like lightning in a bottle. This is going to scare everybody for the next 40 years.
Halloween, in a sense, is about a cipher. I mean, the killer is nobody. He wears a mask, so he could be any of us.
Hello?
And a force of nature, as opposed to a human being.
No reason, no conscience, no understanding, good or evil, right or wrong.
And I think that's when people get the most frightened, if they think somebody in their family is a killer, or if I'm a killer. That's terrifying.
Who is this?
In 1978, when Halloween comes out, I don't think people realized that it was going to kickstart a whole decade's worth of horror movies. But the reason it worked was because it was simple. It's ultimately about a girl babysitting some kids and a guy who shows up to kill her. We don't have any deeper insight. It was terrifying.
Michael Myers just one day snapped and killed his sister for no reason. And from that moment on is evil.
Michael just had this inhuman quality. There is no rhyme or reason to his murder spree. John and Deborah created this killer that no one had ever seen before, where a unknowable, unkillable evil can just be set loose on a small town and wreak havoc.
What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was.
I wanted the audience not to know whether he was human or supernatural. And he had no character. He was blank. He was simply evil. It's what you don't know about, what you can't see. It's out there. He's like the wind. He's out there. He's going to get you.
He literally was a child that murdered his sister. And that's already a horrifying premise, that a child could murder anyone, let alone a family member. And so we have this kid that grows up completely emotionless.
What's unique about Michael Myers that I related to and I thought was really great, and it continues to this day, is he's a blank canvas, so to speak. He's a blank screen that you project onto what your fears are, or what you think he is, or what you think he looks like under that mask, or the motivation behind why he is who he is and why he does what he does.
He wasn't called Michael Myers, he was called The Shape. On the call sheet it says The Shape, which is right away kind of an interesting insight, because there was something about that as more of an idea rather than a specific person.
Michael Myers, if we think of him as the Shape, he is not a personality. He is a killing machine. This complete and total psycho killer who cannot be controlled, cannot be stopped, cannot be reasoned with. Does not matter who you are, how you are related to him, he will take you down. And that was our worst fear at the time.
It's interesting to call him Michael Myers or The Shape. I always kind of think of Michael Myers as the person behind the mask. The Shape is the mask. The Shape is the character that you see in the distance. He kind of epitomizes Halloween. He is the boogeyman.
The shape is kind of neat, I think, because it's so enigmatic, like the character. So I think that's more me. The shape, I think, would be my preferred name.
Totally. I think his power is really summed up in that he is the shape in that first film. And we know and love Michael Myers as this icon, but he's not as scary as Michael Myers as he is as the shape, as just this force that you can't stop, that will somehow find a way to still be alive, even if you cut his head off. Burn him alive.
Goodbye, Michael.
The emptiness, the nothingness behind the mask. There's just an inverted Shatner for you, painted pasty white, and then there's a knife in your throat.
Tommy Wallace, who found the Shatner mask, thought, yeah, this is good. I don't know who that is even. He didn't know it was Shatner. And took it to be the kind of everyman face. And then he did just very simple stuff. Get spooked by the damn thing. It's really weird.
None of us were prepared for the effect when this innocent-looking mask got just those few touches done to it. As I recall, I did the hair first and probably didn't use much in the way of masking. That is, in fact, streaks and tips. Next, peel off these sideburns, peel off the eyebrows.
It's so basic and simple, and that was what was the most horrifying thing about it, is it's just white, and there's no facial features to it whatsoever.
Back in the day, I did the whole process from start to finish in about half an hour or 45 minutes tops. It's starting to get shape-like on us. The minute those sideburns go away, you start to see them.
That mask is terrifying. And when it's done right, it can really stick in your brain.
Starting to get that scare power that I like. All right, comes next, a little bit of masking. Let's put a shower cap on the dude. The original was Krylon Appliance White.
It changes in every single shot. It's constantly morphing. And you saw it from different angles. You were never lingering on it long enough to have it burned into your brain that well. So it was always changing and always shifting, much like the boogeyman.
We had, 4 weeks to shoot, and it had to last that long. We weren't thinking a minute past that. Certainly weren't thinking of the phenomenon that has grown up over this guy. Let's see, just a couple of little details I'd like to round around that hairline a little bit. Will primp and fuss and mess, but essentially, we're there.
What I always found myself attracted to about Michael was the poise and the mask.
If that mask wasn't captured at that time the way they did it, it would never do that again. And it's so iconic.
And it really does embody what Michael was and became.
Going back when you were making it, there was no way in hell that you could ever think we'd be sitting here doing this horse shit today, or you having to talk about it so much.
My instinct is to kind of, keep it at arm's length, but it's amazing how this can take over. Everyone wants to know about it.
Michael Myers. Michael Myers.
Michael Myers.
Michael Myers. Michael Myers.
Michael Myers.
Michael Myers.
John and I met at film school in, 1967, 68 at the University of Southern California. So we would work on each other's movies. And John was starting his third film, which was to be Halloween. And it turned out he was shooting a couple miles from my house. Then I said, what if I come to the set and just hang? I'm going to be doing my own pictures soon. So, this would be good, just to be on the set of a real crew, kind of demystify the experience. And went, okay, and I swear it was like in the same breath. He said, well, we need a guy for the killer, and you have to put on the mask, and all you have to do is walk around. What do you think? I went, oh, okay. So it was that offhand. There was no audition. I don't know if he had another idea for somebody else or what, but, there I was, for the rest of the shoot, being the Shape.
The thing about Michael Myers, the way Nick Castle did it, is that he moves very slowly. He moves in a way that does not seem overly threatening, but at the same time is just unnatural enough where you're kind of put off by it. He's just kind of gliding around very evenly. You know, there's no bounce to his step. There's no puffing. There's none of that sort of overly aggressive kind of action. It's just movement in a very even, strange way.
It was the first time that you were going to see me kind of head to toe walking. I went, hey, wait a minute, John, this is the first time you're going to see, how do you want me to do this, And he just go over there and walk, for God's sake. He's getting questions from about 300 people, and I come up going, what's my motivation? This stupid guy in a mask.
I said it was simple. Just be as simple as possible. Just walk. He's not acting, the Shape is not acting like a monster. He's not acting like a human being, which is in itself slightly more creepy to me than if he came charging across the room.
So whatever I did, and a lot of people like it, so that's good.
I think that Nick Castle did a great job as the first Michael Myers because he had no idea what he was doing. It's also not easy to scare the hell out of your coworkers. And he did it so well because I think they let themselves get scared because they knew he's like, oh, Nick's such a nice, funny guy. And then when it turned, they were like truly horrified.
The thing I love is that he was able to actually make it a character. He's just very effective.
The reverence everybody has for Nick because he created this iconic character. And frankly, it wouldn't have been the same if someone else other than Nick had done it.
I love the picture of him offset when they're not shooting, where he's got the Michael Myers mask on top. I was like, that's exactly every horror movie shoot I've either been on or a part of is like that, where the idea of you could feel how much fun they must have all been having on the set. I don't know. That must have been, what a cool spot.
We didn't treat the mask as reverently as it's being treated now on the set, where, whoa, gotta take it off and put it over here. You could see some behind-the-scenes shots of me just kind of going around, holding it by the hair.
The spray paint that Tommy Wallace sprayed it with never really dried. It always remains tacky because you're not supposed to spray rubber with spray paint. So it'll never, ever fully dry. So it collected dirt on places where you set it down or where you touched it. That's why the tip of the nose is dark. That's why under the chin is dark. That's why the lips gathered dirt just through the air, just by laying it down and it gets soiled. That's why it has all those marks.
The universe of information the fans have in their head about who this character is and why the character does that, there's a lot for you not to know. And so that gives the audience the freedom to just run wild with their imagination. And I think that's one of the things that John and Nick and Deborah Hill accomplished really beautifully in 1978.
I think what makes Michael Myers the icon that he is, well, first of all, he's got an annual appointment with all of us, The name of the movie is Halloween. The name alone is going to make you say, oh, yeah.
Michael Myers. Born October 19th, 1957. Killed his older sister October 31st, 1963. Now he's back.
There were slashers and proto-slashers before him, but he really set the template and set the rules for slasher movies. And he kind of represented a new era in terms of horror villains.
Michael Myers is the ultimate stalker. There was no remorse to his killing path. And it was always vicious, wherever he did, whether it was strangling someone in the backseat of a station wagon to inhumanly stabbing someone in the gut and picking them up off the floor. Have you ever tried that? It's really hard. He's got a lot of strength to him.
Part of what makes Michael especially effective is how anonymous he is. He kind of blends into the darkness of Halloween.
Michael Myers bides his time. He doesn't smash through doors. He doesn't slam doors like Leatherface does. He watches from afar. If there's something he likes, he'll keep an eye on it. He'll check in. He checks in on Laurie, And when he's ready to strike, he does. And he does so quietly.
There's no jokes. There's no fun to be had with Michael Myers. Just a lot of scares and murder.
We wouldn't be talking about these figures if they hadn't become pop culture icons. They became pop culture icons, I think, because the first films were truly scary.
The original Halloween is, simply put, a better film than any Friday the 13th, any Nightmare. It's the only one where it's universally agreed that the original is the best.
There was a contemporary story about real people who were experiencing something that was just freaking out of this world of frightening. I just knew, like, it was a game changer.
My favorite Halloween movie is Halloween. I mean, I know it's very typical to say that, but that film is so perfect. It made me feel something that I had never felt before.
I watched the first Halloween when I was 12 or so. It's just that existing fear that everyone has that somebody may be around the corner. And I think what was so great about him was his simplicity in that way. And I think his appeal was immortal.
They opened in 200 screens, then they moved to the Midwest, then they moved to the West Coast. It was almost like a platform kind of release. There was no internet, so the only way you would learn about these films was opening the Friday paper and seeing an ad for it.
When Halloween first came out, it received terrible reviews all across the country. Everybody reviewed it as being a really awful exploitation horror movie.
Please help me! Oh!
So I sort of wrote Halloween off until it was re-reviewed by the Village Voice, and it kind of, a new wave of reviews said it was good again.
There is a difference between movies which are violent but entertaining and movies that are gruesome and despicable. There is a difference between a horror movie and a freak show. And a good example of that is the fact that both of us gave favorable reviews to a very scary 1978 horror film named Halloween.
Halloween was this word-of-mouth sensation. It was this huge independent success story. They weren't even thinking sequel.
The most successful independent production in history. Give us an idea what that means.
The movie cost $300,000 to make, and it made $70 million.
They had this great idea for the first one, and then immediately John Carpenter wanted to do something completely different. You know, he didn't want to have anything to do with Michael Myers. They made him do another Michael Myers movie.
I didn't want to direct it. I got forced into writing it, and look, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I had a 6-pack of beer. It was the only idea I could think of.
That Strode girl, that's Michael Myers' sister. She was born 2 years before he was committed. 2 years after, his parents died and she was adopted by the Strodes.
John and Deborah created the kind of sibling thing. I thought that was interesting because it was like, oh, not only is Michael a young killer who stabbed his sister to death, but now he's got another sister.
When you add that piece of information coming in part 2 to part 1, it suddenly changes. It's a family vendetta.
There was something driving him, and it was like this family connection to Laurie Strode. And you're like, why does he want to kill her so bad? And what happened to the parents?
Where, like, you know, what kind of abusive situation in his childhood created this monster? And where does that bleed over into his family relationships and then his homicidal future?
Michael, stop!
Some reason he is drawn to kill his all existing family. Now, that creates a new through line, so cool. so it works.
If the Halloween franchise was going to keep moving forward, it was going to be anthological in nature. Each subsequent film was going to just take place around Halloween or be a Halloween story. Thus, Season of the Witch was born.
4 days to Halloween.
Turn that down.
4 days to Halloween.
Michael wasn't in it. I mean, he is in it. You see him in a commercial on TV. But again, I mean, like, I'm also trying to put myself in John and Deborah's shoes after Michael is shot in the face and burned alive. How do you bring him back for 3?
What's the matter? Don't you have any Halloween spirit?
The fans, when the film came out, completely rejected it.
Part 3 is relevant because it tells us unequivocally that we, as the audience, are the ones running this franchise. We are the ones who keep them alive. Because it is that passion and disappointment that people rented that film, including me at the time, hated it.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
That backlash cemented Michael's place in the horror canon and horror history, I think. Now it's become kind of like this novelty item, this cult classic.
In some ways, like a horror sequel is a bit like a cover song.
It's like, I Want to Hold Your Hand by the Beatles is Halloween. I Want to Hold Your Hand by the Rolling Stones is Halloween 2. And Halloween 3 is done by Yoko Ono.
I've seen enough. Let's get out of here.
I can't see anybody taking that kind of swing today, where we had this mega successful movie with this very cool killer. Let's drop him entirely and do something else. They were like, all right, well, maybe we'll have an icon down the road.
You should find it quite interesting.
You have Halloween 3, and then they course correct, and it's like, this is about Michael Myers killing people.
When Halloween 4 came out, you remember the fanfare that came out behind that? Like, Michael's face is right on the poster, you know, it's like, Michael's back.
Now, Michael Myers has come home. He has returned for one more night of unholy terror.
Michael!
They knew what they were doing. They had to get the fans back into the theaters. The movie is literally called The Return of Michael Myers, just in case you didn't know.
In the original Halloween, we have the shape. And it does not become Michael Myers technically until the second one. And as we move further in the series, they realize that that's what everybody identifies with. That's what everybody loves. He becomes Michael Myers. That's when he gets a name. He stops just being the shape and he moves into Michael Myers territory, and we identify him as a name and a backstory and an ever-evolving mask.
Help me!
It was Halloween 4 where the studio pushed them to give more blood. One of the strongest selling points for me for the original was Carpenter not needing any of that in order to scare the audience.
By the time you get to Halloween 4 and 5, they start creating this really silly backstory, and then they introduce his niece.
In Halloween 5, Danielle Harris returns as Michael Myers' young niece, Jamie, who is still trying to find a way to escape from the boogeyman.
Michael's always going after the family member for some reason. I guess he doesn't like his relatives for some, So he just gets so far away from simply a scary guy in a mask who kills you for no reason. There's all this plot and layers. So it gets more complicated, as it goes along.
Giving him a mythology kind of negates what is special and scary about him. It made him less scary to make him this kind of concrete product of whatever it was, instead of just the spirit of Halloween out to get you. I think really diluted what was scary and impactful about him.
Uncle Michael, please don't hurt me.
I love Halloween 6.
For years, I've been convinced there must be some reason, some method behind Michael's madness.
I know that the rules are that you're not supposed to explain the monster. I get it. Lovecraft said it, Stephen King said it, I totally get it. I don't care. I like it if the monster is involved with cults. When horror can lean into that, when they can tap into that, I'm into it. I dig it.
The Thorn trilogy of Halloween movies is explained in 6 that Michael is powered by an ancient cult, but this ancient cult worships this folk magic and these symbols and understanding what these symbols mean.
The Thorn symbol is actually a constellation of stars that appears from time to time on Halloween night. Whenever it appears, he appears.
The Curse of Thorn is inflicted on Michael Myers, who returns for almost every Halloween sequel except for 3 to do the bidding of this particular cult.
When you get to 6, and then there's this business about a cult and these weird tattoos, and it just became absurd. They felt a need to explain the unexplainable, and that's what was so scary about the character in the first film, is that Michael Myers is a force of nature.
God, he's coming.
It's literally the only film franchise in history that has become a choose-your-own-adventure. You can choose just to watch the first movie, and it's a completist film. You can carry that adventure into part 2 because it's the same night. You could go 1, 2, H2O.
Halloween H2O revitalized the franchise. It was a box office hit. Also, it came about during the teen horror cycle, so it was like a perfect fit for that. But bringing back Jamie Lee Curtis was perfect too, because she got the closure I think we all wanted her to get.
Look, I know today is the day, but I think...
Oh, really? What day is that, John?
Halloween.
Oh, I hadn't noticed.
I think it's actually a very solid story in terms of catching up with Laurie Strode and what's happened to her. And it kind of continues stylistically the way the first 2 films looked and felt.
We see our first big reboot happen with Halloween H2O, which happened when I was a teenager. And I remember being so excited about that one. And holy crap, Jamie Lee Curtis is in it again. This is gonna be epic.
Obviously, they did lots of sequels without her, which were not nearly as successful. And I think what really sparked people's interest is this is the original star of the Halloween franchise, who has since gone on to become a major star in movies in general, now coming back to where it all began. I mean, it's no accident that Halloween Age 20 was the most successful of the first round of Halloween sequels. And I think that was really the appeal, seeing Jamie Lee Curtis come back to confront him.
I said, let's make a movie where she makes a moment's choice. I'm willing to fight for my life because to live another minute in fear is no life, and I'd rather die. And let's frickin' end it.
When Jamie Lee comes back for a Halloween film, it just raises the bar so much in terms of our excitement as fans and the mainstream world's interest as far as like legitimizing the film.
I think Halloween H2O was actually a really entertaining movie and brought back key characters to that narrative and brought back what was the only through line they've ever had, which was between him and Laurie. This thing that was manufactured after the fact, but is still what the people want.
Who was that?
My brother.
They're like the horror genre's Joker and Batman. They only seem to exist in front of each other, which is why watching the two of them is so fascinating.
Michael.
It feels almost like a Greek odyssey where you need to see the ending of these two.
That head roll at the end, like that was, everyone was like, what? Like, you know, it was just like, oh, they have a tender moment. Holy shit, what happened? I think a lot of us, including myself, were jazzed about that. Like, that was just perfect. It should have just been done, but they retconned it so bad.
I think that part of why The Shape is so terrifying is he's this dark mirror to Laurie, who is so desiring to save herself, to save others, to protect, to shelter, to care for. You know, she is that good person who you would want to be the one to face down this god-awful force of evil.
I'll see you in hell.
When Michael Myers has to fight Busta Rhymes, the series just went completely out the windows.
I didn't think Michael Myers would be able to recover from getting kung fu kicked by Busta Rhymes in Halloween Resurrection.
Yeah, not many people do.
It had no validity anymore.
I think the lowest of the lows for us was the zombie remakes of the Halloween movies.
It's definitely Rob Zombie's Halloween, for sure. This is post 9/11. This is around the time of Hostel, if not post-Hostel, so people were accustomed to Rob Zombie's meanness.
15 sharing.
Those films are distinctly Rob Zombie. The second one more than the first one, to be honest, because it's Rob unplugged.
If you like Michael Myers as a more grittier character, perfect. But most people don't. I think most people, again, are still really precious about that original concept.
As a kid, I was so scared because you could not explain who this guy was in terms of why he was doing those things. With Zombies thing, it was kind of like all focused around an origin story, so it doesn't feel threatening.
It's hard for me to kind of stay along for the ride because, I'm not about to throw any kind of shade or judgment on it, but it's just, there was no continuum.
A part of the uniqueness of Rob Zombie's Halloween films is that Michael Myers actually talks. Mostly as a kid, but you definitely do hear him speak.
I like the mask because it hides my face. I don't like you to hide your face. Take it off. It hides my ugliness.
I think people just sort of like, oh, there's a new reiteration of Halloween. I want to see it. I want to see what it's all about. Those Halloween remakes were a commercial success because people just loved the franchise and wanted to revisit it and to see what else could be done with it.
When we look at the first Halloween, it is absolutely terrifying because we have no idea what's going on. We have no idea what the shape is. But that's not how horror icons are made. All of our horror icons are made over film after film after film. And so by the time we get later on in the Halloween franchise, we lose a lot of kind of what made the original so mysterious. But at the same time, we gain this horror personality. We gain the Michael Myers that we know and that we love.
What the fuck is this man? Austin Powers. Doc said Michael Myers. This is Mike Myers. It should be the Halloween man. This is a Halloween mask. No, the killer dude from Halloween. Oh, you mean Jason? No!
The reason that these characters become icons is because we grow up with them and they become a part of ourselves and our own psychology as to how we see the world.
Look at it this way. I'm scared of Michael Myers from the Halloween movies. But if there was a room of people that supported Michael Myers, I'd be way more afraid of those people.
A big reason the characters endure the way they do is because you do fall in love with them as much as you fear them.
Oh my God! Did she just say that George P. Wilbur was Tom Tucker's stage name?
Who the hell is George P. Wilbur?
That's the guy who played Michael Myers in Halloween 4, the greatest movie of all time.
They do, in a really weird way, start to feel like family in a certain sense. They have become such a core part of your life, of your upbringing.
I gotta put your knife so I could cut your body. I will slash everybody so Laurie Strode you're through.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about nightmares, you think of Freddy. You think about going camping, you think of Jason. You think of Halloween, you think of Michael Myers.
Look at that, huh?
Fuck you, I'm Kenny Powers.
You do like Michael Myers.
That guy will never go away from me. He was there as early as I have memories, and he's gonna probably the last thing I see or think on my deathbed. It better be my wife or my cat, but it's gonna probably be Michael Aubrey Myers.
Holy shit, you should have seen the look on your faces.
I still get palpitations when I see Michael standing behind that hedge, when I see him standing behind Annie, when I see him standing behind the laundry. All he has to do is stand there, and it gets me. It terrifies me. It has the same effect on my nervous system year after year after year.
Now you can see things like Blumhouse remaking it in this quality way with this huge budget, and they're doing a good job of it. That to me, I thought it was exciting because, yeah, okay, it might make something that we felt covetous about, might take that and open that up to more people, but it also makes the whole thing bigger. It makes more horror for us all to enjoy.
Happy Halloween, Michael.
Taking a horror icon like Michael Myers and rejuvenating him after 40 years, there's a lot of challenges that come with that. There's a lot of expectations that come with that as well. David Gordon Green, when he first came into us to talk about rebooting Halloween, there was a couple of wild ideas that were thrown around. David went off and came back to us with the idea of throwing everything out the window except for that first film. That really sunk its teeth into society and film history and just laid the groundwork for who Michael Myers was.
You don't believe in the boogeyman?
I believe in Michael Myers, a deranged serial killer, but The boogeyman. No.
Well, you should.
When David and Danny were kind of crafting the story, I had to kind of keep reminding and keep them on the track of Michael doesn't want anything. He just wants fucking chaos. He wants to kill. That's his only thing. The fans came to the table wanting a lot of things that they picked up throughout that franchise, but we had to keep reminding them, no, we are living in John Carpenter's world.
He only knows how to keep moving and to keep killing. And he will kill again unless he's captured.
It was taking something that we have a great nostalgia for in John Carpenter's film and taking it very seriously, having a ton of fun, and figuring out how to involve Carpenter, how to involve Jamie Lee Curtis, and how to utilize the tools that original film taught us to make the film necessary, because otherwise why do it? Let's go make the sequel to the first film that never happened.
This is tactical. He waited for this night. He's waited for me. I've waited for him.
And they really tried to figure out, how do we get back to what made the shape so freaking terrifying that we want to keep seeing it, that we wanted it to stay with us for decades?
That's indicative of how iconic the character was.
To me, embodying a character like this that has such universal appeal, there's something grander than just a physical experience that happens.
Say something.
I breathe into it. So I literally take a deep breath, very undiscernible probably to people around me, but I breathe it in and then it's on. Like it's alive, and it stays alive until I breathe it out. I do not and have not ever put that mask on other than when I work. It's just not going to happen, because whatever that is that happens inside me when I put that mask on, it's a sacred place. When that mask goes on, something happens to me.
You feel it, don't you, Michael? You feel the mask. It's a part of you. I ran into Ryan Turek at a function. He told me that they were looking like they were possibly going to be doing Halloween, and I said, I have to do that because I'm the biggest Halloween fan in the world, and I dare you to find somebody else. Everyone says that. I got the call, and I was the guy, and I hung up the phone, and I was elated. And then about 10 minutes later, I went, oh no, I have to come up with this mask.
Chris co-created this character with me because he created the mask. You know, when you're fighting or doing really complex movement, and as disciplined as I try to be, Chris was always there to remind me to maintain that physical presence in a space that was complementary to the mask and to the costume and to everything around me.
I really wanted there to at least be all the landmarks of the original mask and the silhouette. The specific shape of the hairline, specific shape of the nose, the points on the lips, the chin, you know, the little jowls here, the creases within the cheeks, the angle of the eyes. All those things are imperative to Michael. Droop the eyes a little bit to give it more of a tragic kind of tragedy face, almost a sadness. I really wanted to do that, and David responded to it too. Can't take out his eyes altogether, but you have to see glimpses of his eyes in there, and that's a huge point with Michael Myers.
There's something about looking into his dead eyes where you really see the world, don't you?
I'm frightened, just sitting next to this person.
What was interesting in the course of making Halloween 2018 was just how much of a character it is in its own right.
The very first time Chris put the mask on me, there was a collective guttural, oh, like everybody just had the same guttural sound that came out of it. For me, it was like the connecting of a circuit. So for me, that's a part of the energy of creating the shape.
It was about satisfying fans, and I'm a fan. And so first and foremost, I approach everything I do as a fan. I was terribly nervous to meet you at first.
Really?
When you were coming in the trailer.
You thought I was going to stab you? Or?
I just thought you might be a dick.
Oh, that's true.
No, I'm kidding.
We kept saying, God, I hope we get to inhabit the same scene because it'll be a true passing of the torch. Like this is going to be a baton, handoff.
David didn't exactly know at the time. He knew he wanted me in it, but he had me all ready to go for the closet scene. Oh, I didn't even realize I was there with the thing on and ready to go. And, okay, when are you putting me in? And they went, cut, wrap, and I'm going...
When we find out what we're doing, like, oh, man, this is so perfect. This is just so freaking perfect that we get to inhabit the very same scene.
Which was the one that we eventually shot. But it was kind of thematic because it was the first time Laurie sees the shape in the movie.
Michael!
I did go back to the set of Halloween Kills, which was fantastic, you know, coming back in triumph too, because 2018 was a big hit.
It wasn't until after the film came out and we kind of had a larger conversation about what are we going to do. David came up with those titles, you know, like Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. I was just like, I like where your brain's going, man. Michael takes on a whole nother shape that represents something very thematic, which is really cool.
He kills.
I love larger-than-life characters that can't be stopped, that are moved by some other force that's compelling them to do horrible or great things. I just love it. I love it.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
Anytime you go back to Halloween, they still have some capacity to, like, scare. And I think if they didn't, then people wouldn't want to go back to them. But I think it's also just like you fall in love with your captor a bit and have no choice in the matter.
Michael Myers never goes away. He's always going to be that thing you kind of think you see out of the corner of your eye. The noise you hear in the middle of the night.
Come on now.
You think, what's going on?
It feels like that ghost tale that your brother tells you.
I heard that on Halloween night, the boogeyman sneaks out and attacks kids who don't believe.
It is something that we relate to.
You know what, Tommy? That is true. He likes to eat little boys like you.
Michael Myers wasn't made in a lab. It wasn't made in a studio. It was made in the world. And I think that horror fans love that, and they cherish it.
There's a new generation of people that are into Michael Myers. Like, I see really young kids. There was a 10-year-old kid I saw recently with a Michael Myers mask, and his parents were real supportive of him. I'm like, where was that when I was 10 years old? But the parents were like, oh, he loves Michael Myers. Look at his knife. Isn't it really cool?
I look at it and I pinch myself and I kind of remind myself of that photo where it's me opening up the Halloween Criterion Laserdisc and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's very surreal.
This is why I do what I do. That's what inspired me. And like everybody had their Halloween story. Of course, this guy is the Halloween story. You know what I mean? You're the OG.
It's interesting. I did the movie in 1978. Then I had really nothing to do with any of these things until 2018. It's pretty phenomenal and surprising, really, to me, that the character has had this longevity and that it goes from generation to generation. It's a kismet, you know, I guess. You know, it's just like lightning in a bottle. It's John's ability and a good script by him and Deborah and Jamie. And it was just wonderful in it. And the mask is just... how do you dial that in? How you dial that up, you know, go, I want this kind of mask that's going to scare everybody for the next 40 years. It just doesn't happen. You got to be fortunate, lucky, and talented at the same time.
My idea was that we should never make a sequel to the original Halloween. No story left. There was nothing left to say. Boy, was I wrong, huh?
I 1, 2, 3, 4.
4. So you'll have the record.
I'll have the record.
Which you deserve, man. I mean, you know, you deserve it. You're the OG.
Unless you kill me before they shoot.
Which could happen. Stranger things have happened, my friend.
You know, I saw a picture recently of you guys sitting with all the people that played the Shape over the years. And I was really upset that I wasn't invited into that picture. Because I played the Shape in a shot. 2 shots, actually.
Which shots?
Where he gets his hand blown off. And then there was one other shot that's where she's in the car. I'm a lot doughier than this guy. I'm not I'm like the doughy Michael Myers.
You're the wrong shape.
Well, we were always the wrong.
Yeah, so
we were joking that if they showed me in the Halloween theme would be played through a tuba every time I'm on camera.
That's hilarious.